Welcome to Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox, and today is the third episode with our wonderful guest who is talking about the pivotal moments that make them the leader they are today. I really hope you enjoy the episode. I can't wait to find out what's in store. Hi there, welcome to episode 3 of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox, and I'm delighted to be with you to share some of my pivotal moments that make me the leader I am today. Where do I start? Well, just a quick recap. So in episode 1, I've shared my leadership story. So do go back and have a listen if you haven't listened to that already. And episode 2, I shared my take and thoughts around game of leadership and some tips on how you can encourage your team to feel safe to play those games within leadership in terms of icebreakers, team builds, and all sorts of things. Talked about adopting a growth mindset and allowing things to fail, learn from them, move on, and give it another try. So do go and have a listen if you haven't already. So today we are focusing on the pivotal moments that make me the leader I am today. So whilst I have talked about the fact that I tend to have a very positive outlook on life, it's not always plain sailing and things do bring us down. But I often say that the challenges that we have in those sort of what feel our darkest moments are often the moments that we emerge like the phoenix out of the flames. Sort of allowing those strengths that we didn't know we had to pull us out and get us out of the situation and into the new place that we are meant to be after all of that has happened. So where could I start? Well, I guess in terms of traditional leadership moments, there's probably about 3 or 4 that I would say have made me who I am today. And in terms of non-traditional moments, there's probably 3-ish of those as well. So should we start with the non-traditional? And I guess I might have touched on a couple of these in my first episode around my story, but we can't help being who we are because of where we come from, right? So I think about my inspiring leaders that I shared in episode 1 and all of those people that have helped make me who I want to be and who I am today. Now, obviously, I play a big part in that because I am who I am, right? But definitely had a lot of help, support, and inspiration along the way. Now, I guess, having my main part of the upbringing that I remember with my mum and brother, we were also brought up close to my auntie and their children. So in a way, there were 5 of us, my 3 cousins as well. So we had lots of fun growing up as a 5. And I think that's helped shape partly who I am and that kind of team spirit that I always feel. The fact that I like to be around people because in that sense, it was from quite a big family of children, having fun and being kids as you always are. That doesn't mean we didn't have the ups and downs that every family has, of course, but great fun, good memories in the main. And I would say that's contributed to why I like to collaborate with others. And I'm definitely a team player in that sense. Second one was probably marrying Stuart. May 20, no, said it again, 20, no, it's not, May 1999, we got married, and we didn't want a big flashy wedding, so we decided to go abroad. And you know, they say people kind of take a lot of care and attention over deciding where they get married and how it's all going to work. Well, we didn't do that. We were, well, at the time, I was in hotels, and my role at the time was kind of planning people's weddings in conference and banqueting, as it was called, probably still is. And I thought, God, there's all these people falling out over who's going to be at the wedding. I want this menu, I want that menu, you know what it's like. So I decided that I definitely didn't want that going on for my wedding. Not that I think our families would have done that, but I didn't even want to go there. Stuart didn't want to get married in front of a huge crowd. We didn't want the money. And years later, we've often said, if we tried to go for a big wedding in the UK, we probably still wouldn't be married, because we'd have always found something else to spend the money on. So there you go. Anyway, we ended up getting married in Las Vegas, which was the best thing we ever did. There were 10 of us at the wedding, and it was really, really great fun. And to this day, my stepmom maintains that it's the best wedding she's ever been to. I'll take that. But definitely a defining moment for me, getting married and becoming Mrs. Eddy, which is, you know, still strange, but you know, because Wilcox is my maiden name, and I'm very proud of the Wilcox name and the Wilcox family, for reasons that I may tell you sometime in the future. But anyway, so Paula Eddy-Wilcox is where we're at. And then I guess the sort of other defining moment for me was becoming a mum in 2006 to Kaylee. She's now 15. Where did that time go? We all say that, I know, but really it's gone in a flash. But it's been amazing, and an absolute privilege to have to nurture, care for, look after, and guide a tiny human into the almost adult she is today. And she continues to inspire me and make me super proud every day in the things that she does, the way she looks after her friends, the way she behaves at school, you know, the art that I've talked about in a previous episode. She's super creative and super inspiring. So again, becoming a parent and having to think of others other than myself was quite a pivotal moment in who I am as a leader today. So I probably have a bit of a maternal vibe in my leadership, if that makes sense. I like to know that people are mentally and physically okay, and looked after. I can generally pick up when something's wrong. I often laugh that I have a very high EQ and perhaps not such a high IQ, although, you know, I accept I'm an intelligent woman and all of that stuff. But it goes back to what I was saying about my brother in a previous episode, that he got all the brains, so the high IQ, and I got all the common sense and the high EQ. Anyway, a little bit of fun there for you. So they're kind of my personal pivotal moments that have contributed to who I am today. In terms of leadership, you know, if you think of leadership traditionally in terms of our careers and how we develop, yeah, I reckon I've got about 3 pivotal moments. And interestingly, they all sort of focus around that kind of negative connotation, if you like, because each of them are around a single person that has caused disruption, challenge to me in my role, whatever it was at that time. So I guess the first one, I'd taken a role as a PA to a CEO, and it was great on the CV, but in reality, it was I'm going to use the term shizzle show instead of the other word. This person was, comfort-wise for me, awful to everybody. But given that I was the PA, of course, I got the brunt end of it all day, every day. So it was interesting times. And over time, this person used to chip away, saying I hadn't done this right, I hadn't done that right. You know, whether it was booking something in the calendar I'd been asked to do, or whatever it might have been, any simple task that, you know, anybody could carry out. Now, prior to going into that role, I knew I was good at my job. You know, I have a very good work ethic. I'm very organised. I'm a project manager by trade. So you can see how my brain thinks in terms of organisation and things. So I knew I wasn't making mistakes. I also had the notes that I'd written from the one-to-ones we'd had where he'd been asking for whatever he needed. So I could always refer back to that and say, well, I've got it here, you know, and the answer always was, well, you wrote it down wrong and you've not done it right. So very, very chipping away over time. And, you know, that I can honestly say that experience, along with one other, got me to the point where I almost couldn't get out of bed in the morning to go to work. I didn't see it at the time, but probably depressed. And it really affected my mental health in that sense. And this is a while ago, so mental health wasn't really on the agenda like it is now. People weren't so aware. Thankfully, you know, it's coming to light how important it is to look after your mental as well as your physical health now. We've still a long way to go, you know, in terms of the way organisations look after their staff and awareness across the globe as well. But anyway, that's for another day. So yes, at some point I decided that I couldn't do it anymore. And what had been stopping me doing it earlier was that I was the main breadwinner in the household. So I kind of, you know, I couldn't just chuck the job in, shall we say, because I had the bills to pay and everything else. And it gave me time to just say, actually, I need to look after me first. I'll think about the job later, therefore the bills later. So I handed my notice in. It wasn't acknowledged for a couple of weeks, which is just bizarre, isn't it? But HR had acknowledged it, but this person hadn't. And on a particular day, they finally acknowledged it, shouted at me across the office to come in to their office, threw it across the table at me, wanted to know what it was. And I found the strength to A, tell him what it was, and B, tell him what he could do with his job. And I was super, super professional, very proud of myself, and left within the next couple of weeks because I only had to give a month's notice. But you know what? From that, it made me realise that I have the strength to stand up for myself. You know, quite often in admin roles, we don't feel we have a voice. We don't feel, you know, we've got the courage to stand up for ourselves or others because we fear the consequences. Now, in my previous episode, I talked about psychological safety. That I've just, you know, that experience that I've just shared with you was definitely not a psychologically safe environment. So being able to speak up was tough, but I found it from somewhere because they pushed me too far. And, I'll take so much and then I will respond appropriately. So there's a lot more to that story, but, don't want to air the dirty laundry too much. The main point is that I came out the other side. I had a lot of support from HR during that time. Sadly, they couldn't change that person, but, I'm a strong believer in karma. What goes around comes around, and I do know, even though I wasn't around at the time, I do know that that karma caught up with them, shall we say. So that's enough for me. I don't need to know anymore. So, out of that, strength and belief in myself, strength and belief that I can do things that I don't think I'm capable of. So this courage comes from somewhere strongly for me. And then I've got another couple of examples that are like that I won't go into detail of, but very similar, where one person is making it hard for me and other members of the team. And finally, I find a way to get out of the situation. And later on, karma catches up with them. So, if you're going through that kind of thing right now, dig deep. It's tough. I know. I've been there. Dig deep. You've got it within you. You've got everything you need within you to get yourselves out of these situations and find those strengths. Let those strengths shine. That courage, that bravery, that tenacity, trusting in yourself, believing in yourself that you can get yourself out of it. It's amazing what you're capable of when you give yourself a chance. And that's the positive slant I put on these things. Then I guess I've got one last pivotal moment to share with all of you. And that's around connecting with my purpose. If you remember back to episode 1, and if you haven't listened to it, please do. I shared that I do purpose programs with my clients. So I have the accelerated purpose experience for teams, and I have connecting with your purpose for individuals. It's work that absolutely brings me joy. I love it so much because of the results that it gives for the people that I work with. And the pivotal moment I want to share with you now is the moment that I found my purpose. Not found it because I've always had it, but rather connected with it. And I like to think of purpose as your pilot light within, if you like. It's always with you. It's that guiding light when all else seems bleak. Come back to that purpose and it will guide you out and help you. So when I was talking about those challenges, although I didn't know it, some of the words that I used when I talk about that are connected with my purpose. So in 2019, I think now, I officially went on a purpose program. It was a program in the States, although they run it here, and it's a program that I've since delivered on, which has been fantastic globally. And I met the whole group. I think there were about 25 of us, plus the faculty delivering the program. And we were split into groups of 4. And I'm still in touch with 2 of them to this day. We still have regular monthly catch-ups, support each other. And one of them is already recorded as a guest on this podcast as an amazing leader. And the other one is to be scheduled coming soon. So you will get to meet my purpose buddies in the not too distant future. Anyway, we went through this experience together, and it was all about looking at those inner strengths that we have when we don't realize. So through challenge, what emerges for us, those experiences from our life story, if you like. So that story I told you in episode 1, some of those things that influence who I am today, all of those things. And basically you tell stories to each other, and then as listeners or observers, you note down the things that are either repeated or stand out for you. It's absolutely fascinating, not only to have this done for you, but to be able to do this for others. And I'm privileged, as I say, to be able to do this for my clients now. And with that, we worked on our own purposes, and by the end of the program had our purpose statement. Now, you don't always have a purpose statement. Sometimes you just have your purpose words. Now, I have a full statement, but very often there are 3 words that resonate with me most. And I say this is a pivotal moment because my purpose now informs the kind of work that I do for a living, the kind of jobs that I engage with. Is the organisation aligned with my purpose and values? This stuff has become so important and part of who I am. And I reckon I'm like a stick of rock. If you cut me open, I'll have these 3 particular words in a circle around inside, like the circles when you cut open a tree. You've got the age circles. You'll have a circle of words around like that. My 3 words. Now, my full purpose statement is the courageous natural artist, nurturing trust with calm tenacity. Now, there's all sorts of stuff. The calmness in my voice is where the calm came from, the calm way I deliver programs and workshops or deliver coaching, that kind of thing. So that's where the calm comes from. Bringing calm to people's chaos has been said to me. The natural way I choose to show up. I am authentic. I can't put on any pretenses. It's too exhausting. I have to show up as I am. The artist bit, well, I've told you about my love of art and creativity in previous episodes, so that's where all of that comes from. And then the courage in, basically that was around the courage to put both feet in and go for it, without always knowing what might be in store for me. Tenacity, always trying to go for what I want, and trust being one of my top values, in that trust is super important to me in the relationships that I hold. That people trust me to support them and be there for them, but 2, that I can support you as my client, or support my family, trust them, and so on. So you get the idea. But the 3 words that really stick out for me, that I use a lot, and they really surface a lot in the work that I do and how I behave and choose to show up, are courage, trust, and tenacity. And you heard a little bit about why they're important to me as I was sharing that. So that really is why connecting with my purpose was a pivotal moment for me, because it actually gave me the courage and the tenacity and the trust in myself to go for creating On Point Leadership, my own business that started in 2020, January, just before the pandemic. Happy days. And here we are, 2.5 years later, the other side of the pandemic, happily. I know that there's still a long way to go for things to settle down globally, but we are collectively coming out the other side, and I hope that continues. And I hope that On Point Leadership is around for many, many years to come. I've thoroughly enjoyed that first 2.5 years, and how my purpose has helped inform how that has evolved, because who I was on January 1st, 2020 in On Point Leadership is certainly not who I am today. In June 2022, as I record this, So yes, it's been a real learning and evolving journey for me. So I hope that gives you a flavour of who I am, why I do what I do, how I choose to show up as a leader, and in these first 3 episodes, why I'm doing Game of Leadership and what I hope you will gain from it. I feel like I've talked the hind legs off a donkey, so I'm going to go off now and leave you to it. But thank you so much for listening, and please do listen to episode 4 and beyond, where we start to invite our guests in and hear their leadership stories, their take on games and leadership, and those pivotal moments that make them who they are. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to this episode of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Why don't you now take a moment to reflect on what you've heard and see what resonates for you? You never know, there may be some golden nuggets in there that really make sense to you and you'd like to apply in your leadership. Who knows what's possible? We all bring that different uniqueness to the way that we lead ourselves in all walks of our lives. I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox, and I really look forward to seeing you next time on Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Bye for now.